welcome back to Denelli She Can Made. Today I'm really excited to show you how to make a hat using the small 22 pin Addi. It's really neat. You're going to make it in 4 pieces, and then we'll add the crochet and a pom-pom on the top. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Hi, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to be adding contrasting waist yarn to the bottom of the tube panel. So I'm going to go ahead and cast it on. I'm going to slowly put my yarn under every other hook. Open my yarn guide, place the yarn in, put my counter on 0, and I'm going to add 5 rows of waist yarn. Now the first couple of rows always are a little bit tight for my machine. Have a little bit of a knot. Let's see, 3, 4, and 5 rows of waist yarn. Go ahead and cut this. So the second step is to add my yarn. And today I'm using Hobby Lobby I Love This yarn in a green color. So I'm going to add my yarn right next to the waist yarn, which here it's like a purplish color. I'm going to use the top feeder. Put my counter back on 0. And I'm going to crank 50 rows. So it's 5 rows of waist yarn. Sometimes your stitches will pop up in the beginning, so just make sure you pull them down. You don't want to have any drop stitches. So we're going to do 50 rows of the main color. And I'll see you when I get closer to the end. I'm now near the end of my 50 rows. This is my last row. I'm going to cut my yarn. And I'm going to go ahead and cast this off. Now as I'm casting off, I slowly move my handle and start to slip the stitches off and start to thread them on my needle. Now, as I'm grabbing a stitch, I pull this down so that none of the other stitches come off, and my needle just came off the yarn. Do this again. Okay, so slowly, as you pick up more stitches, you'll be able to grab more stitches at one time. So slowly crank and then pick up your stitches. Hold this down while you're pulling on your thread. Again, pick up your stitches. Hold this down while you're pulling your thread so that you don't lose your stitches. And we're almost there. And there's a few more. Whoops. Someone's giving me a little bit of a hard time. Let's go ahead. Pick up my stitches. There. So here we have one tube as part of the hat. Now you're going to repeat this process and do 3 more tubes. So you're going to have a total of 4 tubes. They'll have 5 rows of waist yarn and 50 rows of the main color. Once you've done that, once I've completed it, I'll come back and I'll show you how to assemble it for your hat. Thanks. I've completed the 4 tubes with the 5 yards of waist yarn and 50 rows of the primary color, the main color. So the next step, this is going to have several steps to assemble the hat. So what we're going to do next is we're going to close up the ends here. This is where our waist yarn is. So I'm going to do the first one, and then we can do this. You can do the rest on your own. I'm going to grab my eye crochet hook and I'm going to start closing up the ends. So where you see the green coming out and you see the purple coming out, what you're going to do is you're going to pick up the stitch here, go to the opposite side, and bring through the stitch, bring through a loop. Then on the opposite side here, you're going to just pick up a loop and bring it in. Go to the opposite side, bring in a loop, bring it in, and just keep zigzagging on each side. Here's a loop, and on the other opposite side of the loop. You're going to keep alternating from side to side. Pick up a loop, go to the opposite side, gather up a loop. This side gathers up a loop. Just going to keep doing this all the way down. I'm just going to do a few more. Pick up a loop, opposite side, pick up a loop. And that's what's important about the waist yarn. It helps to frame the stitches so that you can easily see them to pick them up. And I'm just alternating side to side and picking up a loop. And I'm almost at the end. As you can see, it's almost done. I'll pick up the last stitch. And here we're going to pick up this last stitch here. Now what I like to do is, and you can use I'm going to use a stitch marker just to hold this together, because what we'll do is we'll pick that up when we start sewing the hat together. So here we have it. Now for the waist yarn, just remove the waist yarn. Now, since we started on the opposite end, the waist yarn is not easy to unravel, so you have to kind of unweave it out of the loops. Oh, and then I'm going to have a little trouble, so let me just cut it. Sometimes when you have trouble, just cut it. And just start taking out the waist yarn. I'm just going to cut this. Sometimes you can easily just take it out, but we're just going to cut it. It'll be easier for the video. And you're going to repeat this for all 4 pieces, for all 4 tubes. You're going to close up the one end where the waist yarn is, and you're going to remove the waist yarn. And then once you remove the waist yarn, we'll go on to the next steps of joining the tubes together. So here we have, this is one. There's a little bit more yarn here. And as you can see, it's joined. So repeat that for the next 3. And I'll meet you when I get this done. Thank you. Now that I've joined the tubes at the one end together where the waist yarn was, I removed the waist yarn. The next step is to join the pieces together. So what you're going to do is flatten these out as best you can and make sure that all the stitches are lined up. And also where I have my stitch markers on the end, I make sure that these are on the opposite ends of each other. So then I'll pick up the first 2, and again, I'm going to make sure that these are all lined up. And that's my little puppy that you hear in the background. So once you've lined up the stitches so that they're all straight right next to each other, and make sure that you keep the rows straight, as you can see here, they're all straight across. I'll put a little bit closer to the camera. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to pick up this stitch here on the outside, and we're going to pick up the opposite stitch. And we're just going to bring the loop through. You're going to do the same thing on this side. Bring the loop through. And on the opposite side, we're going to bring the loop through. And you're going to keep alternating. You're going to keep zigzagging. So you're going to pick up the loop here. And you're going to go on the alternate side and pick up the next loop. Again, and this here on the outside, pull through the loop. And the opposite side, pull through the next loop. Again, here, see if I can get a little bit closer to the camera. So you can see I'm picking up the loop. And then I'm picking up the opposite loop. And what you can see is, if you see a little bit how it looks here, it has a nice little like edging. And again, you're going to go to the opposite side, pick up the loop. So you're basically doing slip stitches all the way down, but you're using the existing loops and you're not adding any additional yarn. Pick up this loop, and pick up the other loop. Now you're going to repeat this. Let me just take this out so you can see how it looks so far. It has a really nice look to it. And you're going to repeat this all the way down along the edge. You're going to do it for this piece, and then you're going to add an additional piece here with this other one. And then you'll add the fourth one. So you'll be doing this, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, or 4 or 5 times. So continue on doing this, picking up the stitches and joining all the tubes, and then we'll proceed to the next step. So I'll meet you when I get to the end of joining all the tubes. Okay, so I'll meet you when we get there. Thank you. Just wanted to show you how one of the pieces looks when it's together. See how nice that looks? Now what I do when I get to the end, since there's always going to be an extra string up here, or extra piece of yarn, is I just push it through the loop, and then I'll pick it up later when we do the step for the edging, so that it doesn't unravel. So just kind of pick that up this way. Okay, so continue on, and I'm going to join the other pieces together, and I'll meet you when I get done. Okay, so I've sewed all my pieces together, and you can kind of start to see now that the hat's taken shape. It's nice, it's all joined together. So what we're going to do next is, on the part that we didn't sew, which is this part up here at the top where we have our extra bits of yarn, we're going to start to just pull the yarn so it gathers it closed. So we're basically cinching them up, all the openings. Let's see, there we go. Just cinching up all the openings. Now what you're going to find is, because this isn't your typical, when you're using the large Addi or Sentro, when you start to cinch up the center part of the hat, this hole will be a lot smaller. But since we're using 4 pieces together, it's a little bit bigger. So what we'll have to do then is kind of like close it up. Okay, so just grab any one of the longer pieces of string that you have, or yarn. I keep calling it a string. And get a darning needle and start to close up the end. Now I'm going to pick up this because this is where I had one of my extra pieces that was sticking out, and I have a stitch marker here. So I'm just going to take that out now, so I won't need it anymore. Actually, let me make sure I pick that up entirely. And then we're going to start sewing this together, just as you do for a regular size hat. As you're doing this, just make sure you pull all the other bits of yarn so that it closes it up, and start to gather it up and close up the end. Okay. As you can see, we want to just continue to close up the center just by bringing your stitches in. And just keep tightening these up. And again, closing it up. Tighten it up. And again, we want to keep it close together because it is 4 separate pieces. You don't want it to kind of look squared off. And this is just another way to make a hat using the small Addi or the small Sentro. You don't have to buy the large one if you don't need to, because now you can make a hat with the small one also. Just takes a little bit longer because you're basically piecing it all together. Okay. And just keep working with it and keep putting your yarn through. And you can start to see how it looks. Now, what I'm going to do, since I have, I want to talk a little bit about pom-poms. Now, I generally get my pom-poms from Amazon, and I just wanted to show you a little bit of a difference. When you first get them, they're kind of not really in a great shape. They're kind of not rounded. They're a little bit on the off side. What you have to do is to give them the full fluff, and it tells you this when you get the pom-poms, is to use a blow dryer, and it just fluffs them up really nice. So just wanted to give you that little bit of a tip. So when you do buy pom-poms from Amazon, don't worry if it comes out and you're like, oh my God, this isn't round at all. Just blow dry it for a few minutes, put the heat on it, and it comes out nice and puffy. So now I'm going to sew the pom-pom on since we're talking about it. And I just used the ones with the loop. Now I have seen some options where users or people are putting in pom-poms with buttons, which is another nice way because then the hat can be machine washable. But I'm just putting in my the pom-pom here on the hat. I usually go through twice. Go through the loop twice. And just sew it down. And then go through the inside. And just kind of like cinch it up. And you can see that the hat really is starting to, looks like a hat now, starting to take shape. And I'm kind of stuck. You just cut this. Actually, you know what? I'm just gonna slip this in between the 2 layers. That's what's nice about working on projects. You don't have to worry about tucking in your threads because they'll all be hidden away. Now let me look at the top. I have a few more threads here at the top. I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of tuck these in. This makes your project look good and professional. You don't want anything loose. So while I'm doing this, you can also go ahead and tuck in your threads or yarn. Okay. And I'm going to do this in the next segment. I'll finish up this. So here we have the hat. Let me move the camera a little bit. Here we have the hat with a nice pom-pom, but now we still have the opposite end. So on the opposite end, what we're going to do is get a little bit of my yarn. Oops, that's too little. How about we get the whole skein? And using my eye hook, I'm going to start just poking a hole, basically, in between. See these rows here? I'm going to make sure that there's a half double crochet in each of these rows and 2 half double crochets in the ends. So I'm going to pick my first row. I'm going to chain 2. I chain 2. Now in the next row here, I'm going to do a half double crochet in between. Here in the next one, a half double crochet. In the next row here, a half double crochet. Oops, let me get a little bit, I know I'm not in the camera range. Half double crochet in the row here. And as you can see, the half double crochets are in each of the rows where you can kind of see the main knit stitching. Again, half double crochet, half double crochet, half double crochet here, half double crochet here in another knit row. And now here in the end, I'm going to do a half double crochet, two half double crochets. So I'm going to do a 1. And since I have the stitch marker here, I'm going to take the stitch marker off now. And when I put my hook inside here, inside the second for the half double crochet, I'm going to pick up this other stitch so that it doesn't unravel any of the work. Whoops. I'm going to do the half double crochet, put my hook through, pick up the stitch, and do the half double crochet. And I picked up the stitch. So now we have, as you can see, again, we have the half double crochets in each of the knit rows, 2 at the end. And again, here's a knit row, half double crochet, another knit row, a half double crochet. I just find that if you do the half double crochets where the knit rows are, I think it looks a lot neater, professional. Half double crochet in the knit row here, half double crochet here. And all I'm doing is kind of like just poking through my needle, half double crochet, and a half double crochet, and again, and again, and one more time here. And then here we are on the end, and there's no stitch marker, so just going to go ahead and put 2 half double crochets, 1 and 2. And I'm going to keep repeating this till I get to the other side, and I'll meet you when I get there. Now I made my half double crochet all the way around on the hat. Now I'm going to do 2 more rows of half double crochet in each stitch around. So chain 2, half double crochet in each stitch. Now you could change this up a little bit if you wanted to do like a shell edging. That would look really pretty. Or maybe do all single crochets. So it's really up to you how you modify the pattern. But I'm using half double crochets as for the brim. And I'm going to continue on and do my 2 rows of half double crochets, and I'll meet you when I get to the end. Thanks. I now finished the 3 rows of half double crochet. I'm going to go ahead and join. And I like to do a join that doesn't look like a join. It looks like it's part of the stitches. So I'll take when I pull my yarn out, I just pull it underneath the next stitch, come around, and then slip it through here. And you can see it kind of blends in with the others. Go ahead and hide my stitches, or hide my thread and tuck it in. You never want to have loose threads. That'll look really tacky. So we want to make sure we have a nice professional looking product. I think it's a compliment when people think you bought it at a store and it's not handmade. I think it looks really cool like that. But anyways, here's the hat. As you can see, it's a really nice hat. Now again, this was 50 rows. This is going to be more of a snug beanie. If you want it to be more slouchy, you could add maybe another 10 rows. Instead of the 50, do 60 rows. If you want to make a child's hat, you could probably make this 40 rows and make it a little bit smaller. But here you have it. Now you can make hats with your Addi Express, and you don't need the big one. You can just use the small one. There's more steps to it, and more piecing together, but it works great. Just the hat looks nice. It has some edging. I think it's great. Thank you so much for watching my videos. I really appreciate all the positive comments I've gotten. I like a lot of the ideas that you're sending me. I'm looking forward to coming up with some other new things that you can try with the Addi. I absolutely love them. I think I'm also going to be doing some crochet videos on some of the things that I've liked to make and have been good sellers for me. Thank you. Thanks again for everything. Have a wonderful holiday and a happy new year. Thank you so much.